Hello you, it is I, Ultra Marine. I wanted to do a book video today because I realized that it's been too long. And a big reason why it's been so long is I've definitely been quite neglectful with my readings. I'm still making my way through Don Quixote, which I think I mentioned in my November book video, which might have been my last video, my last book video. But yeah, I just have not been reading as much. I picked up this book for the first time in a few weeks, maybe since the new year, a few days ago, but I'm not even halfway through yet. You can see I'm on page 337, and it's quite a big book, so I have quite a lot left to go. But yes, I don't want to ramble too much about this, because I knew that I wanted to do a video on books, but I was just trying to think, what books did I want to talk about? And oh, I just realized one is missing. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. I wanted to talk about the books that left a big impact on my life. If I wanted to be super hyperbolic, I would say these are the books that changed my life. And in a way, I don't feel like that's so dramatic. I do feel like books can change your life. They can change the way you think about something. They can challenge your perspective or give you a new perspective on something, or even just provide some sort of comfort through challenging times. I wanted to share with you some books that kind of jumped at me as being ones I might call life-changing, or definitely just ones that I would recommend to all of you. And I'll talk a little bit more. They're not all life-changing for the same reason, and so I'll kind of go into that. But yes, a lot of rambling. I do, before I dive in, I do just want to say that I am hoping to have more fresh book content up. Honestly, probably not February, but things should be slowing down a bit, easing up a bit, we'll say, for me, mid-March. And I'll definitely be able to read a little more voraciously, or to the same extent that I had last year, hopefully. But I'm also just trying to be more disciplined and read more now. I'll be working through books a bit slower, but that's okay, because it's not really about how quickly you can read something. I think the most important thing is just to read when you can, and absorb the material. So but yes, I wanted to share with you, I do have a Goodreads account, and I do use it. I update it whenever I read something, or I'm constantly adding books that I want to read. So I'm going to share that with you down below if you would like to take a peek, and see what I would recommend, see what I liked, or follow along with what books I'm reading. Spoiler alert, it's going to be like Don Quixote for probably the next few weeks. Yeah, I'll be happy if I can finish it by the end of February. I think I will, if I can keep up with what I'm doing. Anyway, that was a really long intro. So let's get into it. There's a stain, which I hate, but it is what it is. So this first book is Tuesdays with Morrie. This is probably not a surprise if you're familiar with the book. I mean, it says right here, an old man, a young man, and life's greatest lesson. And it's by Mitch Albom. It's a super, super fast read, but it's really good. It's based on his experiences with his mentor, a former professor, Morrie. Okay, I'm going to read you the inside. It says, maybe it was a grandparent or a teacher or a colleague, someone older, patient, and wise who understood you when you were young and searching, helped you see the world as a more profound place, gave you sound advice to help you make your way through it. For Mitch Albom, that person was Morrie Schwartz, his college professor from nearly 20 years ago. Maybe, like Mitch, you lost track of this mentor as you made your way, and the insights faded and the world seemed colder. Wouldn't you like to see that person again? Ask the bigger questions that still haunt you. Receive wisdom for your busy life today the way you once did when you were younger. Mitch Albom had that second chance. He rediscovered Morrie in the last months of the older man's life. Knowing he was dying, Morrie visited with Mitch in his study every Tuesday, just as they used to back in college. Their rekindled relationship turned into one final class. Lessons in how to live. Tuesdays with Morrie is a magical chronicle of their time together, through which Mitch shares Morrie's lasting gift with the world. It was very beautiful read. Obviously, it's pretty sad. You can kind of tell what happened at the end. There's one thing in particular I know I want to share to kind of give you a sense of how I feel like this impacted my life and the lessons I carried away from it. I'm not going to say it so well off the cuff, but I know that, yes, I underlined this portion, and I'm just going to read it to you. So this is a direct quote. This is something that Morrie tells Mitch. He says, "The most important thing in life is to learn how to give out love and to let it come in." His voice dropped to a whisper. Let it come in. We think we don't deserve love. We think if we let it in, we'll become too soft. But a wise man named Levine said it right. He said, love is the only rational act. That really resonated with me, that last line in particular. Love is the only rational act. Because I think oftentimes, well, I'll speak from my own experiences. I feel like love can seem really irrational, or like you don't want to trust it if you've ever been hurt or, gone through experiences of heartbreak or love going bad. That can really harden you up over time. And I think that's a mistake. I really love the idea of letting the love come in, and that love really is the only rational act. It's so necessary for life. Talking about that now actually has kind of made me decide what next book I want to share with you. I know that can sound really very maybe like kind of granola, like, okay, love, like peace and love. But the thing is it's a cliche or it's a stereotype for a reason, because love is really that important. I don't know if you can hear my dog breathing heavily. He's in deep sleep. But anyway, as I was saying that, I thought about something from this next book I want to share, which I think I did talk about. in my November books and this book is amazing. So many great concepts. It's not just about, mindfulness or how to meditate, but kind of just gives you concepts for living a more fulfilling life, or living more authentically. This book introduced me to this concept of Maitri, I think is what it's called, which is basically it's universal kindness. But when the author, so this is Mindfulness in Plain English, and the author, I'm really going to butcher this, but it's Bhante Henipola Gunaratana. Not saying that well at all, but he really made me think about how when you're coming from a place of love, when you're operating from a place of love, it really changes the way that you're interacting with the world, and it changes the way that you interact with yourself. So it kind of starts with also just like self-love, loving yourself, and then letting it extend outwards. Loving your friends, your teachers, strangers, your enemies, all living things. And again, I feel like it's really easy to kind of shit on that concept, or feel like that's a really soft concept, which is really not. It's actually really difficult. It's super difficult, obviously, because I think the norm, the kind of human default is to be really skeptical when it comes to this sort of concept of loving everyone, like having universal loving kindness or friendliness. But I think that is truly life-changing, and so I think that this book also really honed in on that concept for me, and it gave me a lot to think about. I feel like I really want to reread these books, even though I've read this one pretty recently, but I feel like this is one I need to read over and over again because there's so much in here. But yes, I think if you want to overcome a lot of things in life, it really starts with just love as a whole. Love for yourself, love for others. I'm not talking about purely romantic love, though that's kind of more what I was thinking of with Tuesdays with Morrie, with Love is the Only Rational Act. But really it's for all kind of love. I mean, the same thing can be true with like friendships. Sometimes it can be hard to let people in, to trust other people, to have that relationship. But also, it just applies to everyone. Acquaintances, peers, classmates, coworkers, whatever. When you're operating from that place, I think it overall just improves the interactions that you have. So that's I don't feel like that was really eloquent or articulate with what I was trying to say, but those two books definitely had an impact on me, and serve as guides, I guess, to how I would want to live my life, to live a life to me that would feel very authentic and genuine. So this is kind of turning into like a self-help ramble, but okay. So this is just the next book I picked up, and it's The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this book in a video or not. I honestly can't remember, because I know I did do like a favorites type. This is just a book I like to read whenever I'm going through a stressful time, a hard time, a confusing time. So if you're ever going through a period of upheaval where you feel like the future is so unclear and it terrifies you, I would highly recommend this. It is very spiritual. It's not a book for everyone. These are all books that made an impact on me because that's just the kind of person that I am. Like I am very, very spiritual and, you know, into those concepts. But yeah, this one I read for the first time. I think I might have been 19 or so when I first read this, and it was like right after my first breakup, which is so funny. But the main concept from this book is the universe is conspiring in your favor. So to not be afraid of what's to come, to kind of trust in the process. It reminds me of this quote, this very intellectual quote said by a very wise man, which is, "The universe tends to unfold as it should." I love that quote because I think it's true, and I don't know, it gives me comfort. I think a lot about that sort of philosophy of what is that word? Is it like determinism, or just the idea that everything that will happen has happened, or, you know, should happen, will happen, that whole concept. I like that idea. I don't know that I necessarily 100% subscribe to it, but it is a really lovely thought when you feel like your whole world has turned upside down or you just feel lost. This book is kind of a nice reminder of just to not be afraid. To not be afraid of that. And also to not be afraid to dream, I think, is the other concept. Like, it's partly trusting the process, but that's not enough. You can't just have this kind of blind faith that everything will work itself out. You also have to have some action and move yourself along that path. And I like that idea better. You know, I don't like this idea of, you know, it'll work out, it'll happen, you just sit and wait. That's not going to happen. If you do that, you're going to be waiting a very long time. But to kind of not be afraid to step out on that path, move forward, meet what's coming, and trust that in the end you're going to end up with what it was exactly that you needed. Yeah, this book makes me feel hopeful. It restores hope, and hope is a feeling that I really value. Yeah, I really value. And so, and the best thing about hope is you can have it even when you're feeling pretty bad. Even if you're feeling super, super down. Okay, the next book I've definitely mentioned before. I wanted to mention this book again. I really did love this book, but the ending is what I found to be the most impactful. I hope this isn't really much of a spoiler. I don't think it really is, but just, yeah, it's the ending, so if you don't want to hear anything about the ending of this book, exit out or skip it. But the context is that one of the characters is experiencing the ending of a relationship. They're experiencing some heartbreak, and they're having a conversation with their father. And the father is giving advice, and this advice really struck me. I'm just going to kind of read the sort of end of his almost monologue. He says, "If there is pain, nurse it, and if there is a flame, don't snuff it out. Don't be brutal with it. Withdrawal can be a terrible thing when it keeps us awake at night, and watching others forget us sooner than we'd want to be forgotten is no better. We rip out so much of ourselves to be cured of things faster than we should that we go bankrupt by the age of 30 and have less to offer each time we start with someone new. But to feel nothing so as not to feel anything, what a waste." That part I really loved, because it serves as a good reminder, and this is definitely more, obviously it's in the context of a romantic relationship, but this could be applied to any kind of relationship, that when you go through the process of having to say goodbye to somebody, doesn't matter if it's romantic or platonic or whatever, or just any kind of form of grief, doesn't have to be with a person, could be with anything. But when you are experiencing grief, when you're experiencing the end of something, I think it is really natural to want to suppress that pain or hide from it or run from it, to not deal with it, to kind of harden yourself a bit and build these walls, so that way you don't have to experience that level of heartbreak. But I think when you do that, you do yourself a real disservice. And he kind of, as it says in the quote, I love that concept of when you're doing that, you're going emotionally bankrupt, basically, and you're just diminishing that side of yourself, which does not serve you in the end, because you're really robbing yourself of future experiences, and that is really, I think, something I've had to come to terms with the meaning of life, or just the cycle of life. It's very natural, but there is going to be a lot of pain. There's going to be a lot of goodbyes. Nothing lasts forever. Everything will end in a goodbye, actually. Every relationship that you have. That is a really morbid thought, but it's true. But not even going that far, just you're always going to experience painful endings, or just endings in general. And to let yourself feel that fully, to lean into it, to go through it, because really, this is, again, it's a cliche, but the only way out is through, and so anyway, this book, I don't think I ever even said the name, Call Me By Your Name by Andre Aciman, I don't know how to say his last name, but yeah, this book had a huge impact on me. It helped me process a lot of things, and it's a quote I think a lot about. My mind goes back to that quote often, because I think it was beautifully said, and it's just something that I think we need to remind ourselves. Okay, the last book, this one's kind of funny, or it's not funny, but is much more out there, I guess. It is Astrology for the Soul by Jan Spiller. So I'll explain. This book focuses on the concept of your north node and south node, and how that directs your life, or how you can gain deeper insight into what areas you need to focus on, like what aspects of yourself you need to cultivate, kind of what's your purpose in this life based on what your north node is. And you can discover what that is based on when you were born. You don't have to know like the time or anything like that, because it ranges for quite a few years, actually. So there are 12, I guess, chapters, 12 sections, 12 chapters. There's a chart in there so you can see like all the different when the North Node is in what sign. But a good idea of understanding this is your North Node, like I said, is kind of your mission for life, or what you need to work on in this life, like what skills you need to embrace and master in order to live your best life. And your South Node, because the way that the astrological wheel is, there's always something that's on the complete opposite. So I'll give you an example. My North Node is in Capricorn. And so on the astrological wheel, Capricorn is in direct opposition to Cancer. So naturally, if your North Node is in Capricorn, your South Node is in Cancer. And your South Node is what skills you used in your past life, what you needed in order to survive or thrive then. And so those tendencies you're carrying into this life, but you don't need those tendencies anymore. That's not what you need to learn. You already know how to do that, so it's kind of like your default mode, but you need to learn to let go of that and embrace the characteristics of the North Node. I hope I explained that well, but it was super fascinating. There's a whole lot that goes into it that explains it. So for me, this was very impactful because I just found it to really resonate. So if you're not into astrology, if that is just way too woo-woo and out there, I get it. It's not very scientific. I totally get that. But anecdotally, I will say that it resonates. And the people I've talked about this with, they felt the same way. Obviously, there's a lot of confirmation bias there because I'm only talking about it with people that I know are open to the concepts. So yeah, but the great thing is you don't have to go buy this book. You can literally, if you're interested, you can just Google what your North Node is, and then you can just Google information on what that means. I recommend just checking it out if you're curious. See if that resonates or not. If it does, dive deeper, read more about that. If anything, it just gives you ideas on qualities to embrace. Anyways, that is that. I hope that was interesting to you, and maybe you have another book you will want to add to your list. And maybe that one of these books could make an impact on your life. If you've read any of these and you agree or you disagree, I'd love to hear about that as well. Or just, what are books that you feel like changed your life or gave you a new perspective. So, thank you so much for watching. And I hope to be being able to chat about books again soon. So, take care, sleep well, or have an amazing day wherever you are in the world. And until we meet again.